I'm Nicole. I'm with Georgian Bay Forever, and today we're out here in Multispectral Bay doing some mapping for invasive Phragmites. We're using our RPAS, or our remotely piloted aircraft system, more commonly known as a drone. We're using multispectral technology to do this mapping. So what this means is the camera on our drone is taking images in 5 bands of the spectrum, so red, green, blue, near infrared, and red edge. We're collecting all of this imagery, and then we'll further process and analyze it to be able to detect invasive Phragmites in the wetlands here. So Georgian Bay Forever is looking to use this drone technology to map invasive Phragmites much easier, much faster, and in a lot of inaccessible wetlands or locations or difficult to access locations around the bay. We're hoping to capture images of invasive Phragmites growing amongst cattails, native Phragmites, and other native wetland vegetation. So we've been flying the drone in fall, and what this allows us to do, and the camera to do, is easily detect Phragmites from other native vegetation. So in the fall, Phragmites will remain green, as well as the seeds remain purple. But the native vegetation starts to die off and go dormant in preparation for the winter. So we've been doing some flying this fall, and we went over some cattail marshes, and we actually did find a massive patch of Phragmites that was growing that we had no idea about. This patch looks like it was a few small patches, maybe 10, 20 years ago, and now has become incredibly large, very, very dense, and it is really starting to overtake the wetland. So compared to some common state-of-the-art drones that you might see flying around, this drone is, to begin with, much larger. It can fly at higher speeds, it can withstand higher winds. So for example, this drone can fly at 50 kilometers an hour, and it can withstand 40-kilometer-an-hour wind gusts. This drone is incredibly accurate in where it is flying, how it's flying. This drone is very smart. You can tell it exactly what you want it to do. We fly it manually, but we also do set missions for the drone, and it will run these missions quite successfully. So one cool thing about the drone that we have is that you can interchange payloads, which are the cameras attached to the drone. The camera that we use, it's the MicaSense Red Edge MX Multispectral camera. So this camera has 5 sensors on it, each of which are collecting imagery in a specific band. So we've got red, green, blue, near infrared, and red edge. So for every picture that is taken by this camera that's mounted to the drone, there's actually 5 images captured. So you'll have a duplicate, 5 duplicate images, all within those 5 bands that were mentioned. So a lot of people that have done field work will know that going out into the field and doing mapping or surveying in wetlands specifically can be quite difficult. You're walking through waist-deep water, you're walking over rocks, stumps, a lot of obstacles, and sometimes it can be completely inaccessible. So Multispectral Bay, a few years ago, we came in here and there were a lot of Phragmites patches that we could see from a distance, but we couldn't actually get to, whether that was by a motorboat, a canoe, or on foot. It's just a little too difficult to access. So one great thing that this drone has allowed us to do is gain access into these wetlands and gain close access to these patches of Phragmites, whether it's invasive, native, or maybe some other vegetation that we wouldn't otherwise be able to gain. We can also speed up the process of our mapping. An area that would take us all day, we can do with the drone in about 15 minutes. Having that aerial surveying technology has really been able to speed up our mapping process and improve our mapping process and detect Phragmites that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to detect. About 10, 11 years ago, when we started the Phragmites program, we were mapping Phragmites using handheld GPS units or the GPS mounted on our boat to help with navigation. So we were using this type of technology to record the specific location of a Phragmites patch. We were writing it with pen and paper, writing down on a piece of paper, and then going home and uploading it onto a computer and using things like Google Maps or Google Earth to track those patches. Over the years, we've developed our technology and advance the way that we've been recording this data. Now with the drone, we're able to do this at a much larger scale. So going from pen and paper to handheld GPS units, now to using some advanced GIS technology has been a huge advancement for us. Georgian Bay Forever has always been a relatively small organization with only about 7 of us, but we have really big goals, and it's essential that we continue to use technology like this in order to meet those goals and to help get a bigger impact out of each individual at Georgian Bay Forever. So for example, today 2 of us are out and we're going to be mapping an area in probably about an hour that normally would take a team of 6 of us a whole day to map out. So over time, Georgian Bay Forever hopes to continue this monitoring on an annual basis. By doing this, we are planning to fly and collect data in the same spot year after year. With our long-term monitoring plan, we hope to map and survey the same areas year after year to be able to detect any new growth of invasive Phragmites or any changes in the growth, how fast the Phragmites is growing, possibly what is causing it to spread, what's preventing spread, and different things like that. One of the aspects that we're most excited about is sharing the data with our partners, our collaborators, and the community around Georgian Bay. So one, we hope to share the imagery, show everybody what we've been able to find and what we've been able to do. But we also want to be able to share our workflow with other researchers that are looking to do very similar work. Generally, this data is really valuable because it's collecting a lot of information. So you don't only have to be using this data to detect invasive Phragmites, but it can be used to detect any type of vegetation using the proper workflow. In addition, unrelated to vegetation mapping, the data that's collected by this camera, by the drone, can also be used looking at hydrology, looking at elevation changes in the landscape, and different things like that. So this data could be shared, and we hope to share it with other organizations, not specifically for invasive species mapping, but other types of mapping as well.